Hey guys, the mechanical keyboard market has never been as diversified as now. With more and more brands bringing new keyboard designs to the market, companies now have to be pretty creative to come up with products that will catch the attention. I recently got my hands on this little keyboard by AJazz, which has a lot of interesting features, one of them being this little joystick. Banggood sent this unit over a few weeks ago and I've been testing it for the last days. So without waiting any further, we'll go over what it's all about in the following. But before anything, I will be giving away this keyboard. To participate, I will use Gleam and the only requirement is to be subscribed to the channel. So I'll have a link down below and make sure you check it out. Oh, and I only ship to Canada and the USA as shipping can be quite expensive here in Canada. And I'll have the contest open for about a month and I'll announce the winner in the comment section, so make sure you stay tuned. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like if you think I should make giveaways like these more often. This will give me an idea if you actually care about this. But now, back to the keyboard. This keyboard comes in a large and premium filling box. In it, you'll find a box with the USB cable and you also get the keyboard, which is really well packed. You'll also find a replacement joystick and a Bluetooth USB receiver. The unit I received is all black with a touch of red, but it's also available under other color themes. It has the width of a 60% keyboard, but it also has a function key row. The layout is mostly conventional, but it has a few non-standard keys, such as the spacebar, which consists of two separate keys. There's also this little joystick that's quite unusual, but we'll talk about it later. The other part that's not standard is the right shift area to create a narrow key pattern. They made the right shift key a 1.25U key, and same thing for the question mark key just aside. Now in terms of the body, it's entirely made out of plastic. The top and bottom parts are matte, but the sides are glossy, which will pick up fingerprints easily. On the left side, you'll find a rubber tab with the AJazz logo on it, and on the right side you get two toggle buttons. One is to switch between the Windows and Android layout to the iOS and macOS one. The other switch is to pick your power source between USB and the integrated battery. Because yes, this keyboard can connect over Bluetooth to phones, tablets, and computers, but from what I understand, when the keyboard's USB cable is plugged, it never relies on the battery. Speaking of USB cable, this keyboard came with a USB Type-C cable. I really like to see more and more keyboards come out with a Type-C connector, as these are reversible and more durable too compared to micro and mini connectors. And on top you also get three LEDs. One is an activity light, which lets you know when you've reached the max or minimum value of a specific setting. There's also a battery indicator when you're charging it to know if it's full. And finally you get a Bluetooth indicator light. Now let's go over the switches and keycaps. When I ordered my unit, only the blue switches were available. I don't know if they will add more options soon, but that would be cool as I personally prefer brown switches, and linear switches such as reds or blacks would be great too for gamers. They are cherry compatible, which means they should fit third-party keycaps, although you might need to order more than one set to fill in some parts of that unusual layout. The switches are AJazz branded, so I don't know if these are Kales or Gatorons or anything like that, but they feel great. I'll be sure to have an audio test by the end of the video. The stabilizers are also pretty good. They don't rattle like you see on some cheaper mechanical keyboards. And they also have RGB LEDs too, and they look great. The colors are vibrant for a black backing, but I'll go in details about these later. As for the keycaps, they have a rounded shape, and I feel like these can look great in a retro setup as they kind of give a typewriter kind of look, but I personally prefer square keys. They let light go through the lettering with a semi-transparent material, and these keys are made out of ABS, which is not the best material around. They are not double shot, which means that the black coating on top will shine over time and might wear out too. I was also able to replace the keycaps with a third-party kit, but I had to borrow some keys from another set as this layout requires too many 1.25U keycaps. If you buy a full set, you will be able to fill the spacebar with keys from the numpad, but you'll need 3 additional 1.25U keys. The only issue is that the switch's stems are just a tad bit smaller than the Cherry standard, which means that third-party keycaps will fit, but they might wobble or fall off easily. The stabilizers won't necessarily stick to the keys perfectly either. So I think it can look great with third-party keycaps, but keep in mind that you might have to come up with a solution to make them hold. Now, what about that joystick? Its basic function is to control the LEDs, up and down controls the intensity, left and right controls the speed of the animation, and clicking on the joystick switches to the next animation. To do so, you need to press down for 3 seconds on the joystick until it turns blue, and you can deactivate it again by holding it for 3 seconds. It's cool and all, but I don't think it's really useful. I wouldn't pay more for that feature alone, as the lights can be even better controlled using the AJazz software. I've read online that the joystick could also be used as a mouse replacement. In that mode, the left spacebar would act as a left click, and the option key would act as a right click like it usually does. I thought that was genius, especially as it's a wireless keyboard. I would definitely see this feature make this keyboard great for a home theater PC or in a meeting room at work to easily control a PC with a single peripheral. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to unlock this mode. It supposedly activates itself when no mouse is connected, but I couldn't get it to work even with my mouse disconnected. So yeah, huge potential here I think, but it's not working for now. I've read that AJazz might add new joystick features later on, so maybe it's just not there yet, but I can't wait for them to do it as it would make this keyboard a lot more interesting. Something else they could do is map the arrow keys to it, and that would be quite useful too. Anyway, I'll let you know if I find out someday how to unlock these joystick features. The wireless mode has been excellent for me. In fact, this whole script was written using this exact keyboard connected to my PC over Bluetooth, and it was great. Definitely better than the original ANPRO and the minimalistik GK3-61. However, I think the ANPRO 2 is slightly better in that regard. I didn't use the included Bluetooth adapter as my motherboard has built-in Bluetooth and the keyboard always reconnected perfectly even if I let it hang for an hour or more. The input lag is pretty much non-existent and I never experienced repeated keystrokes like I did with the original ANPRO. The only thing is that it seems that keys seem to not always perfectly register, but I'm not sure if it's just me not being used to these blue switches. It rarely happens, but still, the ANPRO 2 didn't have issues like that. I also like the fact that the LEDs stay on even after a few minutes of inactivity, and even with the LEDs on all the time, I was able to use the keyboard for a whole day and it still had a lot of battery left, so I guess you could have it last for a long time without the LEDs on. It can be paired to 3 devices all at once, and switching between them is super fast. I also like the fact that each device has a different LED color. And pairing with a new device can be achieved by holding down the function and either 1, 2, or 3 keys. And you can always go back to the wired connection using the function and tab keys. As for gaming wirelessly, it was pretty good. I didn't feel huge latencies or any lag at all. Sure, using it plugged would be better in that use case, but for some couch gaming, I think it would be fine. I also tried it on my iPhone and it worked great. The fact that it has a layout for every OS is a nice touch and makes it much more useful on every platform. As an example, the escape key acts as the home button on the iPhone, and these other layouts are labeled under the regular lettering. I tried to connect it to my Mac without success, but it's from 2013, so maybe there's some incompatibility in the keyboard and Mac's Bluetooth protocol. In general, I always have trouble with Bluetooth devices on my Mac. My Sony headphones can barely connect to it. Now, speaking of the keycap's layout, this keyboard is quite unconventional. The bottom right modifiers are actually arrow keys, and other keys can be accessed using the function key like page up, page down, insert, and home. However, you lose the right alt, function, and right control keys that way. The function key is still being accessible, but it's located on top, which isn't really standard. The right shift key being narrower also led me to a lot of typos as I would hit the up key instead, and it took me a bit of time to get used to it. Also, as I'm used to a 60% keyboard, I use the function key a lot for arrow keys with the WASD keys, but this one is quite different. The location of the function key is really unusual too, and not really accessible, I think. For me, this was a deal breaker as with the keyboard language layout I use, I really need my right, alt, and function keys to be at the bottom to code. And even using the software, I couldn't successfully remap those keys. Seems like there was a problem as it wouldn't update the keyboard's behavior, so I wasn't able to remap any of the modifier keys, although I was able to edit the alpha keys. Another downside is that you can't add layers using the function key, and you can't remap the function key either. So in this department, it's a lot more limited than a GH60 or poker board as an example, and in comparison, I think that the N Pro 2 nailed that perfectly. Speaking of the software, it feels like it's exactly the same software as the Mantis-Tech GK3-61, but with a different skin. It has the exact same options, laid out the same way, and had many identical behaviors, and maybe that's why it's kind of broken. Like I said before, I wasn't able to remap any of the modifier keys. I guess that a software or firmware update could solve this. On the other hand, the lighting section worked great and had many options in terms of animations, colors, speed, and other settings like that. And finally, the gaming section didn't work either. Disabling the Windows key did nothing. There was also a macro section, but I didn't really bother checking it out because of how limited the software was already. So yeah, kind of disappointed by the software. If the default key mapping layout doesn't make you happy, then you might be disappointed with this keyboard. And finally, I'll leave you to a sound test. So in conclusion, this is really a one-of-a-kind keyboard. The wireless mode works great and it would make a pretty good gaming keyboard. The lighting options are great and the typing experience is pretty good too. And the Bluetooth connectivity worked great across all the platforms I've tested. However, if you want to use this keyboard for a pro usage, you might want to look at something that lets you better customize the key mappings. Round keycaps are not for everyone too, and they will require some time to get used to. And the fact that they are ABS and not double shot is another downside. Finally, the key layout is not conventional and will require some time to get used to, like any 60% keyboard would require, but other boards like the N Pro or the Poker follow the NC standard, so it's a bit easier to get used to. It still is a pretty interesting keyboard, and if they fix the software issues and add more features to the joystick, then this keyboard would really find its niche, I think. Otherwise, I would recommend the N Pro 2 over this keyboard pretty much any day. It has all the same features apart from the joystick, and even some more, and all of these are well executed, making it a better value for about the same price. As always, I'll have links to this keyboard in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. So hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like the video if you did, and if you didn't, just let me know why in the comments below. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe if you still haven't already, as I'll see you in the next video.